Paul said I'm going to the moon tomorrow. And I'd have had the same reaction. Such a bad idea, man. Why? I filled him in. No announcement of any kind in our community would get any play tomorrow, except one. Not even if Bruce Springsteen decided to cover Britney Spears for Paul's charity compilation would it get any attention tomorrow. To my surprise, Paul wasn't annoyed. He just started talking more swiftly than his usual sauntering pace allowed. When do you think it will be? Joe and I are betting on July 31st. We're planning our whole tour around it. I've got it all mapped out. We'll be back in Boston for the release. The birthdays, you know. But that's on a Saturday, I said. They always come out on Saturdays. I offered, and then yawned and exited the highway at my stop. All right, I have to get home and email everyone in the world. Check the site when you get up if it's even working. Helplessness while driving made me twitchy. I thought briefly about calling Cheryl, but that would be pointless. She wouldn't be able to tell me anything anyway, and to press her wouldn't be fair. And besides, she'd just lie. In fact, I realized, laughing grimly, she had lied to me less than a week ago. We'd had dinner and she said, oh, I was going to get her back, and soon. There was nothing left to do, not until I got to my computer. I tapped the steering wheel impatiently and tried to obey the speed limit. Tomorrow was it. This frigid final day of January was the last day of sanity, at least for a while. What had started 17 years ago would now end in 6 months. After a year and a half of waiting, a year and a half of preparation, a year and a half of knowing this announcement was only a breath away, I now felt like my own breath had been stolen. For me, this journey had lasted 7 years, and it had changed me, and now it was time to say goodbye. If I could, I would have put out my hands and pushed back against the oncoming train. But morning was coming despite my wishes, so I parked the car in front of my building and dragged myself upstairs to my shoddy apartment. I fired off a storm of emails to programmers to tell them to be ready to defend our website against the onslaught, to our hosting company to ask them to monitor our bandwidth and give us more when we needed it, to John to describe what the site countdown should look like, to editors, to all the senior staff, to friends and family, warning them I'd be out of touch. My friends David and Kathleen got texts of warning. I prepared our links and wrote a draft post and fell asleep with my laptop next to my head. At 5 a.m. on February 1st, Sue was waiting for me with an IM conversation already flashing on my computer screen. We had no doubt overshot our time frame. Announcements usually came at 7 by waking at 5, but better safe than sorry. We stared at the only website that mattered, which wasn't ours, and tried to use our knowledge of code to see which files had changed, to try to get a few minutes up on the news, to try to get ahead of it just a little. A few more emails like the first 4 had trickled in over the night, slow and steady, confirming things. This was not a drill. Everything was set, our post was ready, just waiting for one crucial piece of information, and I had, in my early morning stupor, nearly hit publish prematurely. My hands shook while we waited. I checked news sites religiously. I put on NBC in the background. I fended off my cat, who seriously wanted my attention, but with my luck, the news would hit in the minute it took me to fill her bowl with water. And then waiting overtook me. I succumbed to a little nap, my fingers still poised in the air over my keyboard. Sue's phone call and her shrieks woke me back up, and when I had shaken the stiffness out of my fingers and willed them to work again, it was to refresh the site that had been my main focus all night, jkrowling.com. The words I'd been waiting for all these years were now there for me to see, and I barely even registered what they were as I tapped into my own site and hit publish. It took only moments for others to do the same. The news started breaking widely. Behind me on my television screen, someone handed the anchor woman a folded white piece of paper as though they were announcing a war had broken out. My phone started buzzing with text messages and then calls. In the next few hours, while the news outlets would pick up the story, the announcement would run all around the world. School children in Ireland would write the date on pieces of white paper and post them all over their school's walls. At a university in Australia, one student would shriek and fall off her chair. The news would go no faster around the Times Square ticker than through past notes in high school classes. Later, the mingled joy and sadness at the date and at the end of it all would start to spread over the fandom. Cheryl would finally call me and shout, "I know something you don't know," through her speakerphone. She does that. And I'd swear to get my revenge at an undetermined date and time. Paul would email me with expletive-enhanced declarations about having to reschedule his whole tour. jkrowling.com would update with further news, and the leaky cauldron would groan and crack under the traffic, leaving us to hold the site together with the digital equivalent of silly string and a Band-Aid. But all that would come later. For now, all I could do was stare at the words I had just written on my screen, words that would shape the next several months of my life, that signified the end of an extraordinary time, and a time that had given me confidence and purpose and independence, an era in which millions of people found fun and community and enchantment under one boy wizard's thrall. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows will be published on July 21st, 2007.